Hey, you guys are listening to Cami Knight with A Higher Love. It's another way for saying unconditional love. And this type of love is placed on the inside of every single one of us. But my background story was that I did not think that love was conditional. I thought it was on the outside of me as well. So, with that, I kept being in constant pursuit, finding myself in constant chase of looking to be accepted or approved by love. I didn't feel like I was enough. And one day, I just got tired of having that relationship with myself. So I cried out to God to show me a better way, to show me who I was. And God did. But it required me to take that step. And as I took that step, more layers began falling off. So why am I sharing this? I'm sharing this because my life changed for the better, and it can happen for you too.
If you ever want to change the world around you, you have to start changing the world within you. If you ever want to change or heal anything on the outside of you, you have to start working and examining within what might be a shadow, as a lady by the name of Cassidy Kane said. I love that term, so you'll probably hear me say that a lot. If you ever want to heal the shadow within you, when I say shadow, what I mean is that it can be a cover up from the truth, a cover up from love, a cover up from who you really are. And so that's why I say it's more of a shadow. Okay, so I want to reiterate that it's not your scars, or some people might say your issues, or um, um, your hangups. It's not you. It's not who you are. These are shadows, it's energies, it's perspectives and beliefs that you have picked up along the way that you have adapted as your truth. Okay? So let's get that squared away in the beginning before I dive further. So, in short, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. It is something that you felt you had to adapt yourself to. Okay? So let's get that out of the way. So, as I was saying earlier, when I talked about how there has been so much trauma happening in the world and there's just been so much going on, what I have found out in the area of like my healing work and in helping others, and really for me personally, is that the trauma that has happened in the world has triggered up a trauma or maybe a memory or a wound within you. And it's how do I handle that? How do I handle that? You know, how do I handle the wounds within myself? And what I mean by handling that is, how do I not this time suppress it? How do I not, for this time around, suppress it? How do I allow it to come up to the surface for the purpose of healing it for the good? This is the reason why there is the opportunity in the trauma behind you, in the trauma in front of you, in the trauma around you. In experiencing that and seeing that, it can trigger the wounds and the trauma or something that you may have buried within yourself, and it has caused you to feel triggered, and you might be everywhere with your emotions. You might be everywhere mentally. You might just be everywhere and you can't find your bearings. Okay, so we're going to break that down, some of that down on today. Of course, I'll be coming with more and more videos, but we're going to break some of that stuff down on today, and hopefully all of it. But if you stick with me, and if you're listening within, all of the stuff that you have going on within you as far as hurts, pains, shadows, things of that nature can be cleared for the good. I truly, truly believe that. And I've been called to this work. And so, in healing the trauma within you, okay, in healing the trauma within you, whenever you feel triggered, this is the time to seek the opportunity in that. Let me share this with you. We don't like pain. I don't like pain. Nobody likes to feel that. The body doesn't like to feel that. Um, and oftentimes it will do whatever it can to protect you from that pain. And I remember my grandmother, when we were little, and she would she would be angry about something, or you could just tell it was an issue that she was angry about for a long time. And whenever she would feel triggered, or whenever she would be bothered by something, and it would trigger that wound, and she would, either avoid it or just try to hurry up and brush it under the rug. And it was just over time, and still carrying that energy and storing that energy within her, it created a sickness. She became ill, I believe, by just carrying, holding on to that pain and to that wound. And so I want to talk today about allowing that wound to come up, to be healed, and to be cleared. And that can be scary for a lot of people. That was scary for me. It was scary for me in the very beginning, when God really just like exposed the shadows that I had within myself, when God exposed the pain that I was carrying, when God exposed the wounds that I had within myself. It was scary because it was exposed. It was exposed. But the truth is, the wounds have always been exposed. The illusion was that I thought that I was covering it up, but I was presenting it every day. I was presenting it in my thoughts, therefore in my actions, and therefore in my reality. And so in doing that, and in doing so, I was seeing the chaos of my life from those actions based out of that belief. I didn't know, and I wasn't aware at the time, that that was my reason, that the reason that I was so unhappy with my outside world had to do with the beliefs that I had within me that was producing that reality. And so, as I stated in the intro video, my cry out to God of saying that I wanted things to be better, that's when God began turning the mirror within myself and saying, this is why your world is the way that it is, the way you see things, the way you perceive things, because of the beliefs that you have within yourself. But the plot twist is the beliefs or wounds or trauma that you have maybe stored within yourself, that isn't who you are. It isn't who you are. It was represented. You've represented yourself as that wound. You've represented yourself as that wound. For example, I used to be very defensive. And I thought that because of my experience that I had in my past, it created that sense of, I felt that I had to be defensive. And because I felt that I had to be defensive, I kept creating scenarios in my life where I was validating the reason why I thought I should have been or should be defensive. Do you get what I'm saying? It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, okay? It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy because this is what happens. When the mind has experienced trauma, when the body has experienced trauma, let me tell you the good and the bad part about it, or I would say that's really the best analogy I can think of, the good and the bad part about it. The good part about it is this. The mind, the body, really the mind, when it has experienced trauma or when it has experienced fear, what it does, it creates a sense of fear versus flight type of energy, okay? So that probably kind of jolted you when I did that, right? That fear versus flight persona, that the without exhaling. we can relate to that. So when you think of trauma, when you think of trauma, when I think of trauma, when I think of a wall, that is what comes to mind. That is what comes to mind. You can even in your own thoughts, what comes to mind when you think of maybe a wall that you had or that you might have? What does it create within you? And how it spoke to me was that it created that. You know, when you think of, I think of when when our daughters were smaller, and or even when I was pregnant, with our last baby, and I remember when I dropped a pot. I dropped the pot, and of course it made noise. Well, she heard that in the womb, and not only did my body jolt, but she jolted too. And so, isn't that amazing? But that really is, it's like, you know how when you feel that, right? And then you're like, oh. Well, the fear or the trauma never exhales when you don't release that energy, or when you have not released that experience and release the pain from that experience. You have still carried the sense of clenching without exhaling. And the body and the mind, the soul, is not wired to be clenched forever. It's only meant for a moment in time to be used to protect yourself. And this is when we use that part of our minds to protect ourselves, okay? The only time that this is used, that part of the brain, the reptilian brain, is used when we are in danger, okay? Our ancestors have used it, and it came in very handy when they were running from tigers and bears, okay, in the jungle, you know, when they were trying to survive. And this came in handy, okay? And we have that same part of our brain, right? It's used, if you see danger coming, it's used to help you get out of here, fear versus flight. Or if you've had an experience or trauma maybe in your childhood that caused you to feel guarded, to protect yourself, if you have not identified or cleared the pain from that experience and you've carried it in your system even as an adult, well, the mind is going to constantly look for or believe that there's danger to look out for all the time. So you're always going to look for the very thing that you believe, because the illusion, not the manipulation of it. I'll talk about that in another video. But the illusion of that is that your brain has not exhaled. You've not allowed your brain, that part of your brain, that part of your body, that part of the pain from that experience, you have not released that pain. And so you've carried it as a sense of, do you get what I'm saying? And so everything that you look for will validate that wound. And this is how we feel powerless, because we think that the power is in our outside experiences, in our outside forces. But the power to heal you and to allow that stuff to come up to the surface is the power that you have. I didn't say, if you've had an experience, I didn't say forget about it or that it wasn't valid. I'm saying allowing yourself to release the pain from it. To release the pain from it. To release the fear from it. And that may take some time, depending on how deep the wound is. But it is possible. And in allowing yourself to release that pain, you've told yourself you're creating a safe haven within yourself. You're creating a safe haven within yourself. If you don't feel safe on the outside, it's because you do not feel safe based out of an experience you went through within yourself or with someone else that caused you to not feel safe on the inside. And so because you may not feel safe on the inside, on the outside is going to be the very mirror or the very agreement that you've made within. And so how do we heal and allow it to come up to the surface? Well, I'm glad you asked, because that's going to be on my next video.